class! Welcome to your first interactive digital version of Interactive Narrative. Here we go. So today's class is going to be about customer journey mapping. So customer journey mapping is a tool that user experience researchers use to understand how users are interacting with a product or a service. Wait. What is a customer journey map and why is this helpful to us? Okay, great question. So when you start to design a new product, like you're doing for your senior project, it's easy to get caught up in what is this going to look like. Sometimes it's helpful to take a step back and think about the journey that your user or customer would be going on as they interact with your product to better understand your opportunities. Okay, that sounds great, but how do you do that? Another good question. So let's take a look at this board. So what I have laid out here is a way that you can start to build a customer journey map. Along the horizontal axis at the top, this is where you will put all of these steps that your users or customers are taking along their journey. So it's a timeline, the beginning of time until the end of time, and you choose what those starting and ending points are going to be. So along the vertical axis, we have the themes for an analysis. And these are the things that you're going to think about at each step in your user journey. The first one is, what are the actions that your user is taking? The next is, what questions are on their mind as they're taking that step? Next is, what are the positive moments here? What things are making them happy? The next is, what are the pain points? What's making them frustrated or upset? And finally, after you fill out all of this, you'll be able to think of what the opportunities are at this step in the process. Sound good? Still confused? No worries. We're going to work through an example together. Here we go. In order to explore this, we're going to jump in and look at a service that a lot of us in Toronto are familiar with, the TTC. So what you're going to do when you create a customer journey map is the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to answer two questions. The first question is, whose journey are we following? So in the case of something like the TTC, are we following the journey of the operator of the TTC? Are we following the journey of a pedestrian or of a customer service representative? So let's make a decision, and today let's say we're following the journey of the passenger. The second question you have to answer is, in this timeline, what is your starting point and what is your ending point? So again, if we're talking about the TTC, am I starting from the time I leave my home, or are we starting from the time I board the train, or somewhere in between? So for today's example, we're going to make our starting point when I arrive at the station I want to leave from, and we're going to make our ending point when I leave the station that I intended to arrive at. So once you've decided who your journey map is for and what the timeline that you're looking at is, the next thing you have to do is some research. So a good way to do this is to either do telephone calls or in-person interviews to understand how people use the product or service. So in this case, it'd be a good time to interview people about how they use the TTC. Once you have that information, you can start getting a rough timeline of what people do during their journey with the product. After you've made that initial map, the next thing you get to do is some field research. And that's what we're going to take a look at right now. So we're coming up on Davisville Station now. For someone like me, I live in the neighborhood, so this is a subway that I take a lot, so I know how to enter and to exit. But when you're watching someone approach the station, if the station's new to them, they may have challenges wayfinding or understanding what door to go into, that sort of thing. Okay. I've been doing a lot of walking and talking, but here is where we're going to jump into the role of a user experience researcher and watch what it's like for a passenger to take a trip on the TTC. You ready? We're going to fill out this grid together. For the rest of the lecture, we'll be referring to this digital version of the grid. Okay, let's fill in what we know. So who are we following again? The TTC passenger. And our starting and ending points are going to be arriving at Davisville Station and exiting Wellesley Station. At this point, if we've already completed our initial research, we can start to fill in what the steps of our customer journey are. Come on, we're going to do some field research. Okay, researchers, that was step 1. It's time to get mapping. The first thing we're going to write down is the actions that happened in that step. Here we saw our passenger enter the station and take the stairs down. The next section is questions. What are the questions the user is asking during this part in their journey? Davisville is a station that's often closed for repair, so I'm always wondering, will it be open and when will the construction be over? The next part is happy moments. Is there anything good that happened during this piece in the journey? So walking into a TTC station in the winter is always nice because it's warmer than outside. Pain points are those moments in the journey that the customer does not feel so happy about. So in this scenario, the station is often dealing with construction, which is a pain point, and it's often very loud in the station because of that. And finally, we get to opportunities. This is where you reflect on everything you've entered in the table and think about how you could improve the experience for the user. At this point, you're thinking about it from a customer experience perspective, so you're not thinking about cost limitations, you're just brainstorming ideas on the page. Okay, let's get back to the journey. Okay, researchers, we just saw step 2, where the passenger reloaded their Presto card and taps to enter the subway station. These are some things that I saw. What did you see? Pull out a piece of paper, write down some of your thoughts, and work through this with me. All right, let's jump back to the journey. Step 3. So here we watched our passenger find their way to their platform, and it's also important to take note anytime a passenger takes the stairs, because that should be a flag to you. If your passenger can't take the stairs, there might be a pain point there for them in a different user type. So some of the questions here are which way is southbound, what side of the tracks is the train going to come on, that sort of thing. But from everything that I observed, I didn't see any high points or any low points because the user type that we've been following is quite common with this station. One thing I did note is that it should be clear where there is an alternative method to taking the stairs. Next, we're going to jump right in to step 4 because I don't have a lot of footage of this step. All the user is doing here is waiting for the train. So the questions they're asking is, when is the train coming? And this one is supposed to be, will I be late? Which is what you're often wondering on the TTC. The happy points of being on this platform is that it's above ground, so you still have cell service, which means you can still text, which is convenient. The pain point of that obviously being it's outside, so you are exposed to the weather, whatever that might be. And there is also no display time anywhere of when the next train is coming, which can be frustrating. Okay, for the next part of this exercise, I'd like you to fill in the journey map. So go ahead and watch the rest of the journey. Bristol Station to Wellesley. At this point, you should have completed the remaining portion of your journey map. So how did it turn out? How was that exercise? Once your journey map is complete, it's a good time to reflect on all the opportunities you've written down and start to understand which ones seem like the priority. And that's how you start to think about the process of your user journey. Next, it's your turn to build the same grid for your senior project. Now that we've gone through the exercise of mapping a service that we, or a lot of us, have tried before using the TTC, we now start to think about what the journey is going to be like for your senior project. So obviously, your senior project is not completed yet, so you don't have anyone that's actually worked their way through the journey. So when you're thinking about how people move through that journey map, you're going to be thinking proactively and trying to guess what you think some of the pain points and the happy points will be during that journey. But it's important to know that what you create, it won't be validated yet. It's something that you'll have to come back to after you're done building your product to understand if it was correct or if it could be improved. Okay, looking forward to your assignments. See you March 2nd. And the real end of my journey was to get this burrito. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Have a good week.